Greetings, this is Dr. Villarreal, Senior Director of San Diego County Office of Education, Court and Community Schools. And yesterday we gathered as a team around the idea of service and leadership. And in the afternoon, we were going to have the opportunity to work as a network. Well, because it was such a powerful conversation, we lost some of that time in the afternoon. And ultimately, the South Network gathered to calibrate, as did the North, but we simply had to leave the facility in order to work together. So I thought I'd share this opportunity to the North Network to be able to continue the dialogue about networking. And since this is a new partnership for us, I call this the Future Thinking Day, really, for us, but it's more like a Future Thinking Hour. So as you can see here, we initially conceptualized the Court and Community School prior to really thinking bigger about a network. And we really talked about this idea of the blue and the yellow. The blue are the community schools and the yellow are the court schools. And so this was our task, where really you were going to have one senior director in the court and one in the community. That was something that we decided that was going to sort of isolate us again, and there was not going to be no true networking possibilities on a consistent and sustainable basis. But I want to show you a video of smarter ideas from IBM. So the innovation is the question, who benefits? I mean, that's sort of the question for us, right? When we're deciding to do something new and different and innovative, who benefits? So I'd like to show you this video from IBM. So again, who benefits from these smarter ideas? And at this point, I'd like you to reflect for a minute and really sort of think about who benefits from smarter ideas, and really ideas not only just in the ad environment, but also in our network. So let's talk about Peter Eisenberg. You know, he's really this person who was on NPR last week and really was talking about trying to bring gases to make fuel, right? And so all these people are laughing at him and thinking he's a complete crazy scientist. But I love these quotes from the interview that took place last week. He says, and the author says of the article, pursuing a big idea takes some hard-headedness and thick skin. If they don't tell you you're crazy, you're not doing something worthwhile, Eisenberg says. Because what you do when you innovate is you disturb the existing order. So think about that. You know, one of the things that we've been saying, or at least I've been saying to folks, is that history will eat strategy for lunch. So we honor the history when we are looking at trying to conceptualize a new idea, a big idea, a different idea, on how we can internally and externally create something sustainable for our students. Because this is really about our students, as we learned yesterday during our service and leadership retreat. So I just want to certainly put now into practice this idea of network and sort of conceptualize this. And what I'm really trying to do here is I'm trying to model for you of building a common professional language. So here's how we conceptualized it a couple weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, since this is only my 5th week. You can see that we thought, well, what if We have the North region, or we call it now a network, right? Because region was the word we used a lot in JCCS. And we use it in different ways. 8 regions, 2 regions, 4 regions in the past is what I've learned. But you can see that here the idea was that we would not only capitalize on this nesting model in our approach, but certainly looking at community partners, our central office, meaning our offices of support at San Diego County Office of Education, as well as our central office support. We have various folks in our own office that can help with that. And then you obviously have the executive director, senior director, and principals that can support. And then you could also see here that we have the educational side of it. Excuse the word judicial. It was my attempt to just give a content to these schools for anybody who's new, but this is really referring to court schools. This is really referring to the institutions, both Kearney and East Mesa. Then you see San Pasqual, who's our standalone school in the north, and it's North County Schools, or they call it NECREC, is the acronym that we've had for quite some time. And also you'll see down here independent study. So the question arose, why are you separating these? Well, because they act independently from each other, frankly, and they do different things. They're not all the same school, so we need to treat them differently because they're being used in a different way, in a different manner. So I certainly want to make sure that we continue to think about this construct. So you look at the South, same concept of the nesting model here, and you can see here the schools, and certainly under the judicial, we're missing YDC, which is the Youth Day Center. We're missing other reflections, and I understand that, but I just wanted to conceptualize and put an image, a visual, for us to kind of capture our understanding around this. Not all the details are here, not all the schools are here. That's not the point. The point is to give us a visual map of where is it that we're going. And you see on the bottom of each one of these slides, of these two concept maps, you see service and leadership, because that truly is our end in mind. Are we providing service and leadership to these partnerships, whether it be at Monarch down south, SPA up north, whether it be at our court schools in partnerships with probation, whether it be at independent study or community schools with our local districts. That's the question. So now the question I want to ask, and I challenge you to think bigger. Is this essential question? Remember, essential questions are ones that can be argued, can be debated. There's no right or wrong. It's supposed to draw some inquiry from your background. Here's the question as we see both of these networks together now in one image. Whose network does this belong to? When should I, as an adult, join a network? When should I separate? So that's the question that we really need to sort of wrestle with for a bit. Because we can quickly get down to the details of where's my location, where do I belong, when do I sign these timesheets, who do I report to. I understand that. That's a human professional reaction to simply being held accountable. We understand that. But when we look at a network that's sustainable, and I'll show some research in a few minutes, when do I join? When do I separate? Are we isolated only into the South network as our partners are here? Are we isolated onto the North network? Let me push a little further. When do I join the North network if I'm from the South? When do I join the South if I'm from the North? When do we communicate about issues or activities or concerns or tasks? When do I join? When do I separate? When do I separate? I think of it as, when do I separate? Let's look at Monarch. Standalone school. Do I give the principal their room to grow? Do I separate for a bit and check back with him? Do I separate from the principal who's going to be the lead, if you will, of a certain school or schools as a senior director? Because again, look at the question, it's I. It's relevant to me. How about you? Relevant to your position. How about relevant as a principal in relationship to teachers? Think about you're coaching a teacher. You're supporting a principal in another network with a teacher. When do you join? When do you separate? But the bigger construct, the bigger question is, whose network does this belong to? So just think for a moment about your personal network. Your personal. Take a minute. Question, who do you call? Excuse the typo. Who do you call during an emergency? Who do you call when there's a personal obstacle? How about your professional network? Who do you call during a professional emergency? Who do you call when you need strategy about a professional obstacle? Here's an illustration from Wellman. This is the egocentric network. This is probably one of the first illustrations come out conceptualizing this idea in a visual. Notice on the left-hand side it's non-kin, on the right-hand side is kin. So here's non-kin, here's kin. And this is sort of the big idea of what it might look like in terms of you being right center in the middle there of the focal person. Who are your confidants? Who are your intimate relationships with? What do the activities look like? Who's the extended kin? Are there cousins? Are there half cousins? Who's in your network? Who do you go to in time of need? Who do you go to in time of just support, or someone who just simply you want to make you laugh? So that's what our networks look like. Look at the lines, look at the colorization of these networks. Let's take the work out of Singapore for a second. Here on the left you see Anne and Jim, and here on the right you see Mary and John. So look on the right hand side down here where it shows you the graph. This graph is really important because you see 1 is Anne, 2 is Jim, 3 is Mary, and 4 is John. What do you notice about the directions of these arrows? Where are they mostly pointing to? Or where are the most arrows pointing to? You can see it's Mary. Mary is the keeper of the information. What happens if Mary is sick one day? What happens if Mary forgets and we're trying to plan a dinner date as noted here in this prompt? That's the question. So let's look at the whole network and an ego and isolated network. We certainly don't want to create an egocentric network where everything flows through one person. As we think of tie strength, a tie between a network, who are the key players? What's the cohesion? Isolate network. We don't want somebody to feel isolated because you're in the institutions, because you're the new person, because you're afraid to ask questions in this network. Whether you're a teacher, staff member, student, us, because the question goes back, whose network does this belong to? Whole network. This is more inclusive. This is more purposeful. But this takes work. So let me now share with you my modeling of being vulnerable a bit to kind of illustrate and put in perspective for me what it just looks like on a social network aspect. This is my LinkedIn network. And this, as you can see, I found a cool way to assess my network with my social media that I'm really engaged with. And as you can see on the left-hand side, this is my former district. This is the network that I have there. Here are some folks in the county office. And here are some folks here that sort of have past professional partnerships with people that are friends of mine that work in other districts. And here's some folks out here and some outliers. So these circles that get bigger means there's more contact, there's more interaction, there's more communication on this social media called LinkedIn. How about my network in Twitter? Here, this is just a snapshot of the last 30 days. And you can see that I've been here 5 weeks, and here's San Diego County Office of Education mentioned 34 times because I'm tweeting it out. I'm celebrating our work. You can see down here Jennifer Berry. You can see down here San Diego Probation. Here's my Twitter network. Here's my communication. Here's some hashtags that I've used. Now here's my Facebook. This is really interesting, actually. You can see here that I'm smack dab in the middle. You can see that on the left-hand side, these are folks that I went to high school with. On the bottom portion of it, these are folks that I know through school when I was in high school. That's how Facebook works, right? You go back to your past. And up here on the green, this is my family, my extended family, who are on Facebook. And out here, they're just folks that I know that are important in my life, that I engage with, perhaps on a personal level, sharing pictures, interacting, and so forth. Now let's look at research. So if you look at Dr. Daly's work here out of UC San Diego, he's one of my mentors, somebody that I really admire and look up to as a professional and frankly personally. Here's a recent study from 2010 that he has shared with us, and it's online, and I'll refer to it in a second. But this is a school setting that was taking on this large challenge of a new strategic plan. And this superintendent at this K-8 school was really, and this is a local school district, was really sort of saying, what's our network? If I'm going to release, or we're going to release a strategic plan, well, is our network strong enough to manage it and make it sustainable? How do we communicate? How do we partake with each other? What's the interaction look like? So as you can see, it's a quite diverse community. It's a K-8, it's a mid-sized school district, and it's undergoing a massive plan, right? So I&I is in need of improvement, which is based on the NCLB model. So here's some of the findings. That the site administration noted that the communication and knowledge sharing was technical. It was about budgets. It was about what I call procedural, not conceptual discussions. Prescriptive curriculums, adopted programs, textbooks. I mean, it wasn't really about the larger construct, thinking bigger, if you will. I love this quote. Part of our struggle with communication between the district and the sites is that we're fragmented, broken into two worlds, and that has created a challenge for us. So imagine saying we're going to create this new idea, and you have no idea what your networks look like or sound like. Central District Office Administration concurred, offering a similar frustration. Now, this is the district, if you will. I am sitting with the site administrators day after day, year after year, supporting them. As many of their complaints that come out of their schools end up on my lap, and I try to resolve them. And I call them and share and communicate frequently, but I feel that we're not connecting. That's a fascinating word that they use, connecting. I just want to make it work. I don't think they mean connecting as in terms of you're not picking up my phone call or you're not answering my email. I think it's more about that common professional language and in short, trust. So as you look at the question here at the bottom, you look at the question of how do we communicate within the network in regard to work-related tasks? And as you can see, the dark are the site administration and the white are the district administration. And you can see how large they get based on how important that person is in the communication. What do you notice? I immediately look at the outliers. I wonder about these site administrators out here. And what are they doing? What are they thinking? Imagine if this was us at JCCS and these were our teachers. These were our students as the outliers. Students who really didn't know our purpose, didn't really know the communication and where the flow of information was coming from. That's really interesting. Here's another example. And this is about professional work-related knowledge and frequency. Notice how tighter the network gets, where there might be some folks in the know and some folks not in the know. Notice in the white, even though these are district folk, they're not as important. These might be your IT folks, these might be facility, who knows? These are assumptions. But the visual enough gives a reality to our purpose here at JCCS. So let's get back to the question. Whose network does this belong to? When should I join? When should I separate? So that's the task that the South Network is going to embark on today and the next few days as we begin to decide who's taking the lead, who's supporting. Not who's responsible for this site, who's going to take this on, it's who's leading and who's supporting. So within our own South Network, we have to have a partnership. It can't be, well, I'll see you once a week and off we go. It has to be, how are we calibrating? When do I join? When do I separate? When do we join? When do we separate? So I thought, well, what if we put this in a visual similar to what you saw earlier with the research and as well as with the egocentric illustration. Look at how the South and the North are working collaboratively with the central part of the support. But there are three sort of nodes or three sort of popularities and quality and mixed models that exist within these nodes. It's who's popular, meaning for us right now, who has the information? Which principal is the most veteran? Which teacher is the most veteran? Which staff member is the most veteran? Which support staff is the most veteran? That's who you go for the information. So guess what? That's where the flow goes. And that's where their node is bigger because they have the information. Or they're simply just popular, right? They're fun to be with. They're fun to talk to. Who knows? Quality. Who gets the information quick? Who can you trust? Who gives you that answer you're looking for? Maybe not the right answer, but something to think about. Who's giving you that quality feedback? So how do we attach to each other? Or a mixed model, right? Also be careful with the halo effect, right? For example, because I love my iPhone, Apple, There's a halo effect. Anything Apple does, I'm buying whatever they have because it's Apple. It's a business model concept. So this person can do no wrong. This person is my mentor. That's something that we need to think about as we conceptualize our own network. So when do I join? When do I separate? And who does this network belong to? And that's the question. So thank you. It took about 20 minutes to do this with you. Thank you for allowing me to be a risk taker today, to just share with you as we practice to communicate with each other. This might be a way to communicate with you. If a presentation we do in the South, we can give it to you in the North, and anyone else interested in viewing this. But certainly this is just for discussion. This is just for us to think bigger. No decisions have been made here. Just simply asking the three questions. Whose network does this belong to? When should I join? And when should I separate? Thank you.